Congratulations, everybody. We all did it together. We made it to Friday. How we all doing? We're here together for the next 4.5 hours. A lot to discuss, including the NFL officials doing it again last night. Aaron Boone is officially back. And the New York Giants get set to play a very, very, very important game in Germany against the Carolina Panthers. But let me start with this about the New York football Jets, who have not played a game in what feels like 6 months. To put in perspective how long ago it was since the New York Jets played a football game, it was October.
Yep.
We weren't sure who the next president was going to be, and the Yankees just got eliminated in the World Series. Not only do the Jets have to win this game, that's obvious, but what I need to see, the number one thing that I need, that I demand, that I want, that we all need as Jet fans, that we have not seen yet, Tiki, is we need a vintage Aaron Rodgers performance.
By that, you mean offensive explosion.
Yes.
By that, you mean if we have to, and you might have to, outscore the opponent.
Yes.
Because who knows what Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. are going to, like, what this offense can do. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. They can be explosive. There are times where they're small as well, where they don't do much, but you just never know. And there's a point at some point where Aaron Rodgers has to be the Aaron Rodgers that used to be able to score 35.
Yes.
That's the Aaron Rodgers that you need this week. I get that.
Yes.
And by the way, we've been waiting for that for a while. And I think we're starting to see little inklings of it, especially with some of these big plays that we saw last week. And if they get man coverage, you know what's going to happen. Aaron Rodgers is going to look at one of those dudes, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams. Just go. Just go. Run down there. I'll throw it to you. It almost becomes backyard football-ish, and it's what made Aaron Rodgers so explosive for so many years. We need to see that.
We need
Aaron
to
Rodgers.
see it because, Tiki, we haven't seen it yet. Like, look, Aaron Rodgers last week on Thursday, Halloween against the Texans, threw 3 touchdown passes. That's fine. That's fantastic. Aaron Rodgers' overall stats this year aren't even pathetic. They're not Aaron Rodgers, but they're okay. Mm-hmm. What we have not seen from this Jet offense, and I am begging it, but more than that, I'm demanding it, is score 30 points. Score 35 points. Like, we'll get into the other deficiencies that this Jet defense has that will be tested against a very tough Arizona offensive line and a run game that's been tough to stop and a mobile quarterback where the Jets have had issues slowing down mobile quarterbacks. I get all that. And I know that the Jet defense called themselves the 85 Bears last year, and we all had high expectations for them. And while I still have expectations for them, I'm putting them aside for a second.
All right.
I need to see this quarterback who's making a lot of money this year, who has the Hall of Fame resume, I need to see it once.
Yeah.
And I need to see it Sunday. This team, Tiki, has not scored 30 points in a game.
Yeah.
This team needs to do that.
It's really interesting how in a very short amount of time, this Jets team became one of the best defenses in the NFL, and that's how that was going to be their calling card. If Aaron Rodgers at getting close to 40 was going to be just somewhat of a shell of who we expected him to be, the defense was going to carry them. To now, it's, all right, the defense sometimes gets gashed, and we need Aaron Rodgers to be 28, 29-year-old Aaron Rodgers. Now, I don't know if we're going to get that, but I would like to see it at least once because it gives you hope that it's there.
Well, but here's the key, Tiki. I'm talking about one game. Now, I understand as Jet fans, there's this thought of, well, the Bengals lost last night. Take a look at the rest of the AFC. It's right there for the Jets to make the playoffs. And while that all may be true, I'm focused on one game. And in this particular game, against this particular opponent, in this particular stadium, that's where I need to see it. I'm not telling you Aaron Rodgers needs to be COVID MVP Aaron Rodgers over the final stretch of the season. That'd be nice. That's not what I'm demanding. Nor is it something I expect, nor is it something I even necessarily need. In this particular game, where I think they're going to have a very difficult time stopping the Arizona run. James Conner is a pain in the ass to tackle. If you're stopping him early, bringing him down in the fourth quarter is going to be a load, especially for a team that hasn't exactly been the greatest tackling team this year. So I kind of expect that this is going to be one of those games where they aren't going to resemble the 85 Bears.
Yeah.
I need offense. And I'm not asking for it every week. I'm asking for it once because this is an offense. And here are the numbers. Here are the facts. They've scored 19 points per game. 19. That's unacceptable. The most points they've scored in a game was 24. That's unacceptable. There needs to be a game, there needs to be a moment, there needs to be a day, I say it Sunday, where they show you what they're capable of. And I'll tell you why this inspired me. What caused me to wake up this morning and say, it's about the freaking quarterback. You want to know what it was?
It's always been about the quarterback.
But more so than any other week.
Go ahead.
Last night. I sat there and I watched in the fourth quarter. You want to call it crappy defense? Call it crappy defense. I saw offense. I saw execution. I saw quarterback play. I saw two teams basically go up and down the field, and basically it was who has the ball last, and that's who's going to win.
Right. He saw a sexy jump pass, too, by Lamar Jackson.
That was very sexy. That turned me on.
Look at that.
That's for sure.
1950 football.
Yes. That's what you have to do sometimes. It doesn't mean you have to do it every week. It doesn't mean I'm expecting them to do it against Indianapolis in 2 weeks or Miami in 3 weeks or the Buffalo game in late December. I'm talking about this week. I know that this offense has it in them, and I really deep down think the quarterback has it in him. He just needs to show it this one time.
You think that he has it in him. That's the thing. I think the reason why it's necessary to show it is because you don't know what kind of game you're going to get. There could be your defense could be all over an opposing offense, or your defense could just be having a bad day, or the offensive coordinator on the other team just schemed it up so well, he just find ways to take advantage of whatever vulnerabilities the Jets D may have, and then it becomes incumbent to go score. And it feels like for the last 2-3 years with the New York Jets, that ability to turn that switch up, like to crank it up, just hasn't been there.
Yeah.
And so much of that is always, I mean, it's on the playmakers, but the quarterback's got to be the one that gets them the ball in positions that make them have the advantage and to be able to, be explosive and to be dynamic and to make the plays happen that show up on SportsCenter, et cetera, et cetera. But so much of that, to me, has got to be Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if he has it. I think he does because I saw it at points.
Yeah.
But I also don't know if it's consistent enough.
I don't think it's consistent. See, that's the thing. I think it's two different kind of equations here. And I've said this before about the great player at the end of their career coming to New York, where sometimes they show you flashes, even if they don't show it to you consistently. And I think Aaron Rodgers is still capable of giving you that flash. Now, so far, the only flashes we've seen from Aaron is more on specific drives or in really small snapshots. We haven't had that game yet.
Yeah.
We haven't had that vintage Aaron Rodgers game. And because we've seen it in drives and in moments, it makes me think, well, we can see it over the course of 60 minutes.
But I see him wanting to do it. I think that's the difference for me. I see him wanting to get back on a quick set and just let the ball go, bad mechanics and everything else, but he can get it there and hit a back shoulder throw or hit a fade or something over the top of a defender. He's just not expecting it, and the ball is on the receiver and in his hands before you even know what happened to you. Like that Aaron Rodgers we haven't seen. I see him trying to do it, but it's not quite clicking yet. Now, some of this is just he had an Achilles injury.
I get
He's
it.
40 years old.
I get it.
He's not as physically mobile as he used to be. And so there's always going to be that, well, man, if he just had an extra oomph of extra step, an extra whatever, those things would be showing up. But the reality is he might not ever get that back.
He might not.
And so he's got to manufacture it in a different way. And that's play calling. That's what Todd Downing is preparing. It's the relationship with his wide receivers, which seem to be, ramping up over the last couple of weeks. But I know what you're saying, and I know that this Jet team needs it. I just don't trust that it's always going to be there.
Here's the problem. If it doesn't happen this week, unfortunately, this season may be over before we ever get to Thanksgiving.
Because this is must win.
This is must win, and I kind of feel like if they're going to beat the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona, that's what they're going to need. They need Aaron Rodgers to give you that one vintage performance. And I hate to bring this up, but it's in my brain. I think it's in all of our Jet fans' brains. And if you haven't thought about it yet, I'm going to kind of bring it up to you, and you're going to say, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I don't like to bring up this man's name, but I'm going to say it. Do you remember a quarterback named Brett Favre?
Yeah.
Brett Favre had 1 year here.
Yep.
And we all know what happened here. He sent pictures of his stuff to a cheerleader. He was a disgusting human being. But he also gave you flashes, right? They were flashes of the old Brett Favre. They got off to an 8-3 start. He was banged up. They choked at the end of the season. He wasn't healthy. They missed the playoffs. But there were moments. And do you guys remember his best moment? Do you guys remember when Brett Favre was Brett Favre? I'll never forget it because it was the same day they closed Shea Stadium and the Mets season ended. It was a wild day for Mets fans. The Mets are closing Shea. They're losing to the Marlins.
Mets fans? I've never heard that.
Oh, yeah. And Brett Favre threw not one, not two, not three, not four,
okay, LeBron
not
James.
five.
Okay, Dwayne Wade.
Brett Favre threw 6 touchdown passes against the Arizona Cardinals, and they won that game something like 56-35.
Something like you nailed it.
Something like that. Yeah, my 100% accurate?
100% that was the score.
Look, as much
What
as
was it?
56-35.
What the hell?
He threw 6 touchdown passes. You think I'm making this up?
I'm not even talking about that. How the hell you scored 91 points in an NFL game?
Oh, it was nuts. It was nuts.
What?
In fact, I think the Jets scored like 30 in the second quarter. Like, it was a very odd, weird. It was a weird day.
Tiki, I'll give you a little guess here. How many passing yards did Brett Favre throw for in that game?
410?
Okay, Evan, you got a guess?
No, it wasn't that high. It was like 310 or something.
289.
Get out of
He
here.
scored 56 points, and he threw for less than 300 yards.
Are you kidding?
But you know what? Here's all that matters, and this is the same with Aaron Rodgers. All that matters is how many points you score. Like, Aaron Rodgers threw 3 touchdown passes last week. Great. They scored 21 points, 24 points, whatever it was. Like, we need to see a 30-point game. Aaron said it himself. He said it the last few weeks. We're capable of scoring 30 a game. Well, it's about time. Like, there are going to be games if the Jets are going to go on this magical run and somehow get to 10 wins or even 9 wins where their offense is going to have to carry them. Well, you've had a few weeks of getting to know Devontae Adams again. Garrett Wilson is breaking out. He's up there amongst all the league leaders and every receiving stat. Breece Hall even looks better. The offense feels like it's flowing at a better level than a few weeks ago. You mentioned the quarterback. The quarterback looks healthier. Maybe it's the cayenne pepper he's taken from Thomas Morstead. So things are trending in the right direction, but it's needed and it's necessary. The question is it going to happen? Can Aaron Rodgers give us the Brett Favrean comeback, classic, legendary performance that we all need? Look, this is a week-to-week lead. I'm not thinking about Indianapolis. I'm not thinking about Miami. I'm thinking about this week. And to win this game this week in this situation, in this stadium against that opponent, I'm banging the table so hard football helmets are falling. They need to get that vintage offensive performance from this quarterback.
His vintage, not Jet vintage, because the Jets haven't had this.
Jets, we don't know what vintage is. It's watching other teams score points.
Right. I'm trying to think when the last time the Jets did have this.
Like a vintage offensive performance?
Well, they just had the ability to score 40 points or 50 points. Is it the Fitzpatrick year?
Well, the last time they got to 30, they got there 3 times last year with Zach Wilson at quarterback. 3 times in 2023, and it was in the low 30s, and they weren't like dominant offensive performances. You got to go back to a game against the Miami Dolphins in October of 2022, in which they put up 40 points that day. And Zach Wilson didn't even throw for any touchdowns. They actually rushed for 5 touchdowns that day. Michael Carter had to, Breece Hall had to, but I don't know if you even want to call that like a vintage offensive performance.
That's not what we're talking about.
No.
Because that's just being outclassing the opponent because they're not very good at that moment. We're talking about Aaron Rodgers being a 300-yard passer, which he has yet to do, by the way. He hasn't done it in a while, to be honest with you.
You got to go back to his third-to-last game as a Green Bay Packer for the last time he threw for 300-plus yards.
Exactly right. It was a while ago now at this point. So it's not who he is, but it's what it feels like this Jet team will need. Now, maybe they do get turnover Kyler Murray, even though he's not really turning the ball over a ton today, this year. Maybe they do rush for 210 yards, which would be nice.
Sure.
It would be able to run up the score without having to rely on Aaron Rodgers getting it done. But I think Aaron, for himself, also needs this. Like, there's got to be a not doubt, because I don't think Aaron Rodgers will ever doubt himself about anything. But when you haven't done something, when you haven't had that vintage performance as you're talking about in a long time, it just feels good to do it.
Yeah.
And so It'd be good for Aaron Rodgers, which would make it great for the Jets.
They need this. In my opinion,
Aaron needs this.
Aaron needs, well, you know what? Aaron needs a lot. We as fans need it more. Let me tell you right now. We need it more than even Aaron Rodgers. But that's, to me, how the Jets beat the Arizona Cardinals. So to my fellow Jet fans, as we begin what may be an incredible postseason drive, or it may be an incredible tease, or it may just be us falling flat on our faces. And by Thanksgiving, realizing this team is going nowhere. Can Aaron Rodgers give us that vintage offensive performance? Do you have the hope and expectations that Aaron Rodgers, at least one time, can give us what we dreamt about when the Jets traded for him a year and a half ago? The toll-free number is 888-808-1019. We'll get to what happened last night in football. The referees making a major, major impact at the end of the Bengals-Ravens game. Plus, to my fellow Jet fans, and I put this poll out a couple of hours ago on social media. I'm very curious to check out the results. Where's your confidence level in this team that they can begin a playoff push after what they did a week ago by beating the Houston Texans? We'll get to your calls at 888-808-1019. We'll touch on Aaron Boone's return coming up in the 3 o'clock hour. Giants, Panthers will make our NFL picks. A very, very busy Friday here on The Fan, live from the Town Fair Tire Studios, powered by Town Fair Tire. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody.